Hey guys, what's up? It's Schlaw coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schlaw. And today, I might have just messed things up. I'm in too much of a rush, way too much of a rush. Ooh, man, guys, this is not good. I hesitated. That was the problem. I hesitated, man. I'm in too much of a rush. There's too much going on mentally in my head right now. So we just blew it, you know? That was really not a good situation. Trying to do too much at once. You know? It gets you. It really gets you having, I don't know, being in a rush. It's hard. It's hard timing things. And, you know, I time so many things properly, but guy just ruined it for me. Anyways. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some stuff happened today that kind of threw me a little out of whack. Like, I felt like I was making a lot of progress, and I still am, but still some things happen that really threw me out of whack. So, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's more of the usual, I guess. But there were a couple concepts that I did want to get into specifically, and you know, just stuff I've been thinking about. Maybe it's cope, maybe it's not. I don't really know. I don't know what it is. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's some true things, but it may be some perspective cope. I'm not entirely sure. Or it could just be some true and correct statements. You know, it's a little bit difficult to make that judgment call these days. And I wanted to get into them, but my mood and my mind frame and my mind state is not super ideal right now. It's like a little bit, it's a little off, you know, it's a little off for sure. I don't really want to get into specifics, but it's just a little bit off. And yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to mention about it other than that. You know, just trying to do something. Anyways, but yeah. So that's kind of the sitch, right? It's like we are making progress, we are figuring out some things, but at the same time, things are still kind of frustrating, you know, like it's not super duper clear. But if this see this, like there were certain points of today that made sense, and then other points that haven't, you know. So I don't want to act like it wasn't like a horrible day, you know. It was a mixed day. And I think that is like an important thing to keep in mind. You know, I think that I should just get into my concepts, but I wanted to at least have some kind of a briefer about how I'm feeling, how I'm doing, going into it. That was the idea. So, I just finished up with what I was doing. And anyways, let's figure this out. It sort of goes in the similar same vein as a lot of the other things I've been discussing, I guess, throughout, well, not really throughout this week, because if my memory serves me correctly, I still think the beginning of the week there really wasn't that much hope. It was really the end of the week that I kind of just, I don't know, had more time to think straight and try to reconnect with where I was at before and realizing some things, you know, just trying to contemplate, just trying to get somewhere. And, you know, figuring things out, I guess. One of the things that I thought of and I realized is that oftentimes, and I think everybody does this, but I guess it varies, we all have, and what's interesting about this is something I thought of before, and then it's been a while, and now the concept has reemerged in my mind. So I do think that's quite interesting. Anyways, it's this idea that when we know people, we don't actually know the people. We have an idea of the person in our head for who they are. And I don't know that we ever actually know someone or bond with somebody. And maybe the best relationships, it's close enough to where it works. But I still don't really think there's any relationship where it is a real bond. And I think this is a human issue. Because I don't think I'm alone in my observation that is a problem with most people. I don't think that's like an isolated observation that I'm having. I think most of romance is based and riddled with fiction. Most relationships end up being that way. If you think of the modern idea of a relationship, you don't really do a ton with the other person necessarily. You keep your space, and a lot of people purposely think that and know that. Oh, I don't want to work the same job as my significant other. Well, you would think initially that you would, because, you know, if you love a person, you would want to spend as much time with them as possible. But people actually like to isolate and like to have space from their significant other. And again, it's because it can give an artificial impression and delusion about the relationship and about the person. The more time you spend with somebody, most likely is going to reveal their demons. It's not going to reveal better traits of theirs. It's most likely not going to do that. So it's interesting, right? You won't end up seeing the better sides of people as a result of spending more time with them. It's not going to grow the bond, and that's why. It's because, and I guess to people like me, we don't really think about it too often. That could be part of it. Could be part of it. But trying to think, where am I getting with this? My apologies. Oh, right. Sorry. Fiction. Yeah. And so someone like me, I guess naively so, I don't really want a relationship like that. I kind of want like a raw and just honest relationship. I mean, I understand that the other person has flaws as I have my own flaws. And I guess it's just super naive of me to have that expectation. It is that, like, I guess it is, just because that's not how humans work. But I guess it doesn't really faze me. You know, it's like, okay, I don't know. I know people have flaws, but people don't do that. They lie or they cover things up. And I think a lot of people do that socially as well. And it's just very disingenuous. I think, again, really in every aspect of society that seems to be the case. Socially, when it comes to making friends, when it comes to applying for jobs, it tends to be that way. Like on your resume, you kind of sugarcoat yourself. You don't really be super honest. Like it's not accurate at all. Everybody is in this race to lie and to try to prop themselves up higher than is necessary. That's what everybody does. And I noticed that, and it's taken me a long time to figure that out, because my thoughts and my mindset are not similar to that at all. Like, I don't know, I always craved truth, I guess is a good way to put it. Like, I craved truth, and yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I guess I really thought that there would be someone equitable to me to be in a relationship with, but because I'm also fairly optimized. Now, the thing that has become unoptimal is my tech hunger, which didn't used to be the case. You know, I used to be even more of an optimal human, but I have decayed as time has went on. I've degenerated a little bit, and now I spend a bunch of extra money on technology that I don't really need to do. And yeah, it's a shame, because there was a time I wasn't like that. But I guess I was just naive in thinking that other people are as, like, I basically designed myself around doing what makes the most sense. Trying to be practical, you know, trying to shake off and lose interest in going on vacations or eating out, because these are the worst things to do financially. It's a big joke. I tried to design myself around doing things in the most optimal way possible. Now, as it turns out, nobody else does that, and everybody else just loves to just want what they want, and that's basically how humans operate. And because of the nature of technology, those wants can be super extreme. You know, they can be completely unreasonable. They can be completely devoid of anything that's possible. And it's possible that technology has caused that in me, right? Because the things I'm talking about are a relationship that maybe isn't possible in this world at this state. And at this stage, maybe it's just not possible to achieve. But technology has led us to reach these points where we're a super bloated version of who we are, and it takes so much to satisfy us because we're so used to getting everything that we want. And I think you've heard a lot of these concepts before. It's interesting to think about, though, isn't it? Now, what I wanted to get to is, the idea of most romance being a fictitious fantasy, and why. And the thing is, too, though, most people, I don't think, are as aware of this as a concept. They're not as aware of it conceptually. They just do it, which is even worse. Because you basically have to be fake in a relationship. People love being fake, and I don't really like doing that. But people love it. I mean, they love fake people. But everybody does evil things. I mean, it's not anybody who thinks they're a good person. They have skeletons in their closet. And that's kind of why ego doesn't make much sense. I mean, I guess it does to some extent, because, humans are still better. Like, I guess when you think of a good person versus a bad person, some people are good people in the sense of they are better. Like, there are better people than others. I don't know that it's very sensible to entertain beliefs such as, everybody's equal, or I don't see how that's the case. Now, everybody's imperfect. Oh, don't get me wrong, everybody's imperfect. And that's an important thing for people to understand, too. It keeps you humble. But I think a lot of people, and I've noticed this, they don't want to come to terms with that they're a bad person. And that's usually the most dangerous kind of person. Usually, good people admit, or they think they're not good. And so that leads them to strive to be better. Whereas people who think they're good usually have blind spots because they're not really as observant. And so they may have a better life on the surface. Some of those kind of people use that confidence to really get ahead in life. But it's not always the case. I think a lot of times people like that do have flaws. And it just may not be super obvious materially that those flaws are there beneath the surface, perhaps. Some people are just lucky too, though. I just mean, as a general rule of thumb, if somebody admits they're a sinner, that's something to reflect on, that's something to meditate on. And if somebody is convinced in trying to tell everybody they're a great person, then that's kind of alarming. You know what I mean? It's a little bit risky. So what I'm getting at is, because, of course, I always end up with these really long prologues, is that all of our interactions with other people are fictitious. We want to hope and think that people are so much better than we are, and than they are. And for people who are celebrities who touch us through music, or family members who we shared a bond with historically. When they do something wrong, we look to forgive them. We look to justify the behavior. We don't want to believe that the person we knew has changed. But has anything really changed? We're all imperfect. But our imagination prevents us from ever knowing another person. And this falls on a spectrum. Some people, I think, get closer than others. Some people get very close at achieving a state where they're with somebody, they know someone who they do know very well, and they know the skeletons in the closet and all these things. But it's not super common at this point. And I think specifically with friends, maybe it's more common, but then with relationships, it's less common. Although some people it works out, But then some people it works out until something hits the fan, and then it works out until it doesn't. And it's common to see that people get married and they knew a person, and then the person changes. And now that person is no longer known. But we don't know people. We don't know people. We don't know anybody. We have our own precognition of who they are. And this can work both ways. Sometimes we see people as better than they are, and sometimes we see people as worse than they are due to maybe their humor happens to match with ours, and their cadence, the way they speak, aligns with how we want to be spoken to. So we overlook some of the negative sides of them, even if they're not a good person. Sometimes it's just circumstantial. People who are lonely may just enjoy a person's company enough that they compromise to the point of spending time with someone who maybe they otherwise wouldn't. But that's the main point I wanted to say, is that it becomes a problem when I don't think people's precognition... So I'm just saying that because that was some term I came up with. That's not really a good way to... Preconception. Maybe that's better. Like, I am pretty thoughtful, pretty considerate, and a lot of times people lash out at me, and I'm like really shocked because I do try to be mindful and I do try to be friendly, but some people just still don't like me, or some people just still get mad at me. And a lot of times it's actually their fault for not communicating properly, because I don't know, it just seems that way. And then like it ends up being in an argument about how I'm not good enough, and it just seems a little bit strange to me. It's happened a lot. I'm not talking about anybody in particular. Throughout my life, I've been criticized aggressively for doing certain things when, I don't know. I think it's just the truth is people don't talk a lot, and there's almost like an average or a median of being antisocial. So somebody like me who's extra social is difficult for people to deal with because I do say a lot of things. But if it was a person's fault for not specifying something and not giving context, and it happens a lot, and then they're mad at me, and it's, But again, apparently it's my fault that I just like being social. I just like, talking, sharing. And people just lash out at me. So I'm left constantly in these situations where I'm trying so hard to not misstep, to people please, and to interact. And it just gets so frustrating because I'm trying really hard. And I know for certain that if everybody else tried as hard as I did, there wouldn't be issues like this. I know that for certain. But apparently it's still always my fault. Like as if I don't do enough reflection, I don't do enough, But that's kind of what I'm thinking about, and what I think I lost the plot of. This show started to become a little bit too routine, a little bit not conscious enough. And I was missing and forgetting what got me here in the first place. This idea that we don't know people, and that I've known so many people so much better than they actually are, or at so much higher of a level, especially when it comes to care, than they actually are, and then it all eventually comes crashing down at some point. Because eventually it just becomes far too evident. Way too evident. But I'm realizing that even though these people have left my life, they don't leave. The memory of them at their best, it still persists. The feeling can be brought back. And it's like they never left. And I can even assume this to be the case with anybody. Anybody that can act like that. But that's the whole problem, is I always got so concerned about abandonment. But the truth is nobody ever leaves. Because even the people who stay change. And they're not who they once were. And a person at their best, and then eventually it either gets better or it gets worse. but nobody leaves. And I don't know if every human has this capability to the same degree, but when I talk, it's like I'm having a conversation. And I can still technically access any of the people. And it's all still there. It all comes back to me. But the truth is, and I've explained this before, is that the spunk is all me. And it's always been that way in terms of the communication and the talking. It always was. And I'm just humble to not have wanted to admit that, or I wanted to be the sidekick. I wanted to, because of how much I love people. But, yeah, I mean, that's the truth. Is I was never the sidekick. There may be certain ways that people outclass me when it comes to humor, when it comes to popularity, when it comes to how many friends they have. I'm not talking about those things. Because, of course, people are better than me in those regards, But it's a depth, and it's a care, and it's a thoughtfulness that I've never seen matched. And that's notable. It's extremely notable that, you just don't notice or you don't see that in other people to the same degree. But that's the sad story of life, is that people change. A lot of times people get worse as they get older. Some you'd like to think people get better. But without these kind of dialogues and without these conversations, it's hard. I think it's hard for people to get better. It's hard for life to improve without maturity. And people are aging, but they're not maturing. They're staying stagnant. Noise is in our face all day, and none of it is substantial. None of it is significant. And so it ends up being disruptive. Either way would have been fine. I don't know why I corrected myself. I mean, what do we want? What do we really want? Because it's not whatever's happening. So much of an overemphasis on materialism. People don't seem to want it, but I want to hope that it's ignorance. I want to hope that. That's all it is just ignorance, and that if given the chance or given the knowledge, people would care and change and all that stuff. I don't know. I'd hope that is the case, or that there's some solution to be had. I don't know. I'd hope so. But I do think it's true. I see it, that nobody has conversations like this anymore, and more human interactions are briefer, louder, more obnoxious, crazier, pushing boundaries, less productive. I could keep going on and on. I've seen it. Life wasn't always the way it is right now. Entertainment and the elimination of boredom has become something bought and sold. And we live in a society of people where functioning is becoming terrible, and in a higher stakes world, more and more people are fleeing into isolation and fiction. And things will continue to get higher stakes. Don't mark my words about it. There's a pressure, but the truth is, I don't know how much it matters. I do think for certain people I've been a positive influence, but it's mostly been a waste of time. And the path I travel is alone. You know, sadly, it's not a path to be shared with others. People don't understand. People don't get it. And so my interactions with people become limited as a result of that. And it's a shame, you know. It's not an easy life to lead. It's not an easy life to live, but it's the cards I've been handed. It's the deck I've been given for whatever reason. And I just hope that, you know, something comes of it eventually, but it just seems more and more tricky. As time goes on, it seems fickle. But I have to hope that there would be some kind of an ushering in of a new system that will change things. And again, the truth is that I'm not, if it does happen in that way, I'm not going to be on the losing end. It's just a matter of time, but you know, time's been ticking for a while now, and things are not getting better, and a lot of people are kind of oblivious to what's going on, and it's very scary, to say the least. People should be a lot more on edge than they are, and it's, you know, what else is there that needs to be said, you know? But it could be coming. It could be coming, the day that I may see a lot of good change. We're seeing a lot of bad right now, but I'm hopeful that something will happen that will fix things, at least for myself. Like I said, I'm not really sure how many other people want the future, but it's going to strike, and it's coming. But I wonder if I'll experience it or not, you know, because it's possible that I won't. But I hope to. But does it fall back to what I was talking about, where an idea maybe could be enjoyed just like a human could? A memory or a concept can be lived in even if that is not presently reality. It's a skill that humans are capable of. And everybody else lives in fiction, so I don't know why I even subject myself to a lot of the things that I do. I think there's some kind of a karmic or a intrinsic moral compass to it that I see. I think that's got to be a part of it. Not entirely sure what else. But things could get very strange. But I have to stop fighting it. I have to just... Can't fight it. Resistance is futile. It is what it is, you know? It is what it is. But I think it's important to be hopeful. I do. And I'll continue to try to think more in that direction. Yeah, because, you know, worry doesn't win, and yeah, I don't know, you know. I guess we'll just have to see where things take us, but for the time being, I'll just keep talking while I can. You know, at least now there's something here that could be permanent. These recordings. I mean, if the grid goes out, we need some kind of physical tapes or something of them hyper condensed into data that, well, no, you don't need that. You just need, because you can still have storage without electricity. No, but we need something. Tapes probably need electricity to run. Like projector reels, yeah, but that's not audio. I don't know what I'm trying to think about right now. Record player, no, but record player still uses electricity. Inscribed on paper, but paper turns to dust too. Well, things are as permanent as they probably can be. At least a lot of my thoughts or ideas up until this point. Sadly, we only have a few months worth, you know. I've said it before, but if the show had started way earlier, that would be a little bit more exciting. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, if this really becomes a long-term thing, then it could be more exciting and could get better, you know. Could always be better, could always get better. But what can you do? I mean, life throws so much at you, and you just gotta keep trying to get through. But I thought that was an interesting thought, and I had actually thought about it before, but it hadn't been in the forefront of my mind in a while, which is interesting, to say the least. But it shows that a lot of that cognitive stuff, it comes back. It comes back. It's been Schlaw, but now it's time to buy Schlaw. So, see you, Schlaw.